All right, spring assessment. Hounsom's favorite topic to discuss. It used to be, right?
We're going to grade our own this year, right?
We're going to talk about that at the end here, actually. It's one of the items at the end. So that time of year is coming upon us when we do all of our spring assessments. So I thought tonight I'd just kind of update you on some activities that will be taking place and the state of the state assessment system here a little bit. So usually when we say spring assessment, we think of, map testing is kind of the common term. Tonight, though, here's a list of all the tests that we will look at in the district. So 6 different types of tests that we'll be doing this spring, all with different purposes. And then we'll take a little peek at what's coming next year and beyond on more changes coming. So first of all, the grade level assessments, what we typically call the MAP test. This will include all students in grades 3 through 8 in English and math. And then students in grades 5 and 8 will also take a science test. A couple notes here. The English and math are new this year. They're written to the new Missouri Learning Standards. So this is kind of year 1 for English and math tests rolling out. This will be the first year that we take tests written to these standards. The science test is also new, but the science test this year is a field test, meaning we will get no results, we will get no performance data on any science test that we give. This test is being given to build the future tests that will be coming starting next year. So it does count for participation. We are required to participate. This does count, but we'll get no results. So as I mentioned, the new Missouri Learning Standards are driving a lot of these changes. English and math will be new this year. As has been the case for the last few years, all of these tests will be online with enhanced technology item types, meaning it's more than multiple choice or writing a sentence. It's dragging and dropping, it's grouping things together, it's sorting, it's different ways to assess student knowledge. One of the things that we do try and make, we are accountable for all kids testing. So there are lots of special populations within the district. We have students on homebound, we have students attending Great Circle. I would also say to anyone watching this, any homeschool students or private school students, if you would like to take the Missouri Assessment Program test, you can contact me and we can set that up for you. We offer that if anyone would like to have their kids take the assessment. We have that every so often, so I thought I would throw that out there. But we do have to make sure that we hit all of the kids more than just sitting in the classroom. There's kids all around that we make plans for. The one group of students that don't take the grade level assessment are the MAP A kids. That stands for MAP alternate, and those are students with IEPs who have been deemed to need to take an alternate assessment other than the regular MAP test. Now that's a small group for us. That represents 1% of our total testing population, so that's a very small subset. But we give the MAP and the MAP A during this same time.
On the science field test, when you say no results, does that just mean like the kids won't get to see how they perform?
The kids won't get to see how they do, and we will get no results as a district either.
So they won't get to see a grade or a...
Correct. No. I think this is more testing the items and doing all those things in order to build a test that can be used next year. So, depending on the size of the building, the middle school is by far the most heavily tested building. They have the most kids, and they've got science tests. They've got a lot there. So the testing windows that parents may see, the middle school will start pretty soon after we get back from spring break. In order to get through 1,000 kids and the number of tests that they give, that takes a little while. At the elementaries now, we are only testing 1 grade level since 4th grade has moved up, so 3rd grade only. So we would expect elementaries would be late April, early May. And that would be true for the junior high, will be late April, early May, which is later than it has been in past years. So we're pushing it back a little further just because we have time, and when we're not boxing up 4,000 tests anymore in box and shipping them back, doing it all on the computer, it gives you a little more flexibility. So that's not a bad thing. At the high school level, we give the EOCs, or end of course assessments. In math, we will give Algebra 1 and Algebra 2. In English, we will give English 2. And again, those assessments are written to the new Missouri Learning Standards, so this will be year 1 of assessments tied to those standards. In science, biology is a field test again. That will count for all of those students on the graduation requirement to have taken a biology EOC, so this will count, but they will get no results. The only test that is the same as it has been is in social studies, a U.S. government end-of-course test. That is the one that is not changing yet, so it will be written to the standards that they are used to. Now, this is a transition year for the EOCs, so typically we get these scores back within 5 days, and we put these on students' second semester grade reports. This year, because the tests are all new in Algebra 1 or in math and English, they are going to give the whole state the test, and then they will take all summer and into the fall to do standard setting and level setting on the new EOC assessment. So we will not get results back this year. We will get them back next fall. We will also have no EOC testing window this summer, so the summer school course that we've been offering for government to allow kids to take that, we probably will still offer it, but they will have to take the EOC at an alternate time. We won't be able to test them this summer. So a few changes there as we transition. The test windows are similar. We try and stay away from the advanced placement testing window so that kids aren't over-tested. So the EOC will start mid to late April and run through the first week of May, and we'll be finished with those assessments. A lot of preparation goes into this, as you can imagine, with the several thousand tests and the schedules. Starts with identifying all the devices in the buildings that we will download the secure browser on, making sure we're prepared for all the number of students that we'll be testing. Of course, the scheduling gets pretty complex when you're scheduling this number of kids and activities that will be going on in the building. Lots of teacher training. I am the district's district testing coordinator. I have trained all of the school testing coordinators in each building, who then in turn go out and train all of the teachers and the staff who are involved in testing. Obviously, this is a very secure environment. There are lots of do's and don'ts, and we want to do all the do's, and we definitely don't want to do any of the don'ts. So we take a lot of care in training and making sure we know the right things to do. But that training will take place commensurate with each building's schedule. We will also have students get on and practice on the testing platform, not so much content-wise, but just with the tools and understanding how to drag and drop and draw lines and graphs so that hopefully they are comfortable when they get on, and what is being assessed is their content knowledge and not their knowledge of how to manipulate the tools or lack of knowledge. So we want to make sure they're comfortable with all of the features that are there. Obviously, common assessments throughout the year are designed to assess where kids are on strengths and weaknesses related to the Missouri Learning Standards. And we do have a district map letter that we send out to let parents know about testing. Included in that letter is a link to the practice assessments on the testing platform that parents, they don't need a username and password. They can log in and take a look at what the tests actually look like and what their students will be doing. A small mini test. That link is in the letter that we send home. And probably very important is our communication to these students. We do not want this testing period to be a high-stress, high-stakes time. That is not what this is designed for. We want this to be a time where they can show us what they know. What we ask is just an honest effort to do their best. We're not putting any high stakes on this. It's not a win and lose proposition. We'd like to know where they are. We'd like to know where we are as a district. So all we ask is just an honest effort at their best. And so we try and communicate that over and over again. The last thing we want is high stress and nerve and anxiousness going into this assessment. So we try and do the best we can with that. The ACT and the ASVAB. If you'll remember in past years during this time, all the juniors took the ACT. The state did stop the funding for that. I put it up here just as a reminder. Now, there are some districts who picked up the tab for that on this first year. I don't know if that will continue. That will be something we probably reconsider again on a yearly basis and maybe talk with some other districts about their experiences. So we may come back to you with a recommendation either way on that. But that would mean, if we picked it up, that would just mean that the district is paying for one ACT for every junior, which I think when we looked at it last year was between $15,000 and $20,000 to do all of that. So that's just an item for your consideration and just bringing back your memory that we have done that in the past. Yes, sir?
If we're not paying for it, do you have an estimate what percentage take it anyway?
Historically, around 2/3, between 65 and 70%, will leave us having taken the ACT.
That's 15 to 20,000, you get 30%.
Right. Yes. We are still continuing to give the ASVAB, the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery Test. We've actually expanded our use of that because it does have a lot of interest inventories and skills and strengths and weaknesses, and so we're trying to use that a little bit more in our advisory at the high school so students can make some choices in future planning. The access for ELLs. ELL stands for English Language Learners. So this is an assessment to measure the student's English language acquisition here with us. It's a 4-part test on speaking, listening, reading, and writing. It is also an online assessment. So this year we assessed 163 students K through 12 of our English language learners on where they stand on their English skills. Of that 163, I thought it was kind of interesting. 118 out of 163 are at the elementary level. So our ELL population is very young. One, because of the families moving here, and two, if you score high enough, you do exit out of the program and no longer take the test. So it's a little bit of combination of both. However, the test is very rigorous. It is far deeper than conversational English. It's academic level English, and the vocabulary and that they expect it's a difficult assessment. But we've actually finished all of that testing. That window starts in late January and runs through the end of February. So we are finished with that. Those students will still take all of the regular state assessments on top of this. So this is an extra assessment for them. And I just put on here just an idea, 163 students, that's just under 4% of our district, is 3.9%, which is the exact same number last year. So that number may go up and down, but proportionally it stays right around that 4% number typically for the last few years. AP testing, advanced placement testing, those are for specific high school courses that we offer. We also give that assessment if we don't offer the course, but the student does self-study and wants to take a particular AP course. We give all of them that students sign up for, whether we teach the course or not. Obviously, that's another secure environment, so we make sure and follow all the AP guidelines and regulations. That window is from May 7th through May 18th. So we do try to complete all of the end-of-course testing prior to AP starting so that we can clear the way for those tests. So, changing assessments here. As I mentioned, spring 2018, we have new ELA and math written to the Missouri Learning Standards. Spring 2019, we'll have the first year of the operational assessment for science written to the new Missouri Learning Standards. The following year, spring 2020, we'll have new social studies assessments written to the Missouri Learning Standards, which for us, the only social studies test that we take is the government EOC at the high school level. So for the next 3 years, we will have brand new assessments. There is a group out there, school districts out there, Missouri Assessment Consortium, is looking at unique and new ways to do assessment that does not include the state MAP assessments. And this is an initiative to get enough school districts together and look at local assessments, quality, sound local assessments, taking the place of state assessments. Now, obviously, this would take the action of a state or federal governing body to approve this. I'm not saying that's imminent, but we have been asked to participate. We're involved in the building of this. All along the way, Dr. Zalas served on the committee to look at different ways to accredit school districts. So we may come back to you with an idea. There's different levels of involvement, and we are trying to sort out to what degree of comfort we have in participating at different levels, and we are not there yet. But there may be some opportunities in the future to be involved at more of a supportive, what would you describe it, Dr. Zalas, more of a supportive associate member? Or?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I'd sent you guys an email, I think, before. Some of the districts in the Ozark Conference were part of that consortium, and now that DESE is in the situation it's in, it's a good opportunity for us to guide some of the conversation about the future of assessment. It's a little bit expensive when you get into the assessment consortium as it is now, and the leadership is about to change. So one of the things we talked about last Friday at the Ozark Conference was going to that group and asking for an associate membership opportunity, one where we didn't have to completely dive in on a per pupil basis, but we still had a seat at the table to help guide that, and that would be something that I think we would bring back to you. A significant reduction in cost to do that, but to help kind of guide a discussion on future of assessment.
And this is being driven by changes from No Child Left Behind to the Every Student Succeeds Act, ESSA, and some language that's written in there about rewarding states for unique innovative methods of student assessment. And so some Missouri school districts are getting together and looking at this as a group outside of the leadership of DESE or the state board, kind of taking this on our own. So we may have...
Did that initiative come from school districts getting together and deciding to do it?
It did. It came from a group of school districts, well, from MASA, putting together groups to look at how can we change assessment and how can we change the ways that we accredit school. The APR that we present every year may be coming up with a new way to accredit school districts. And assessment and accreditation were two different subcommittees of this group that worked together. So that was driven by school districts taking that on.
Is it more about, rather than just taking a single snapshot at the end of the year, more about measuring kids changing?
That's
An individual kid moving from one place to another?
Well, it's exactly what it is, and it's doing formative assessments at reasonable points throughout the school year where you're looking at growth, not only where do students end up, but you're figuring out early in the year where students are, what do they need to work on.
We do that.
We do that, but this is, instead of a one day in the spring taking assessment, where are you?
Right.
This is assessment that's being done in a real way, the way school districts currently do it. But letting that, instead of then doing all of that and then giving, I looked on here, it was over 6,000 tests that will be given this spring through the grade level and the EOCs. Instead of doing that then, can we use this along the way and show that we are assessing where kids are? Now, you can imagine state organizations turning over testing to, yes, do what you want and let us know how you did.
Well, the whole notion with the accreditation side, when we finished the work on the accreditation side, it was to, and we gave that information to DESE and the state board. It was just recommendations to help shape what MSIP 6 looks like. There's no movement on MSIP 6 because we have no state board of education, so we're still living with what we have. And so the task force that Craig was participating in that on the assessment side, it's just continuing and continuing at a pace, and just to get at what you were talking about, Jamie, it is testing that measures just what Craig said. There can be no action. Our intent was to give the information to the state board and do with it what you want, but we wanted to be able to have permission to pilot some of this and then present data to the state board and say, look, this works. So we saw it as a unique opportunity, not to tell them what to do, but say, here, we've tried these things. So in order for that to happen, school districts are banding together, and we'll see where it goes. But right now, no decision can be made by DESE, so we're continuing with what we have.
So Craig, if we have the new standards, what's the reason for having an exam in one subject area this year and then new exams next year and the next year.
I think it's just the logistics of getting them all written. The assessment division at DESE, I think, just couldn't tackle all of them at one time. The new science assessment, the new science standards are very heavily activity-based standards. They're less content and knowledge-based standards and very much demonstration. So we're really interested to see even how we're going to assess that. So I'm not so upset that we're taking a field test. I mean, it's kind of it feels like a little bit of a waste of time when you don't get results back, but right now it's not clear to us exactly how they're going to assess standards that talk about students demonstrating knowledge. It could be a unique approach, so we'll see how it goes.
I sure like the idea of a ground-up method of deciding how kids are doing and how districts are doing versus somebody in Jeff City telling us how to do it. So.
Well, we'll hopefully bring you a proposal to be involved with that consortium.
So at least it's not in the No Child Left Behind days when we were anxiously awaiting scores to see which districts would be labeled as in need of improvement and in plans, and that was a real fun way to start the school year. At the beginning of the year is at the opening ceremony, putting up which schools are now entered improvement at. So at least we're not doing that anymore, which is nice. So we have made some positive steps, and we hope to go further in the future. So.
And I also like the idea that you're measuring each student and how is each student doing versus how are we doing. I mean, you're still going to get that overall score,
Right.
I'm assuming they
Right.
can have that, but I sure like the idea that we are saying it's important that every child is making progress.
So that's a lot of assessment stuff. It's like Christmas for me this time of the year. I'm not sure if I'm being good or bad here, but any other questions or comments about any of those assessments or anything we're doing? All right, thank you.
Thanks for staying on top of it.